Hello there, welcome to my channel. This is the second video in a four-part series over the Bigme B1051C 10-inch e-note-taking device. We'll just call it the 1051 from here on out. This particular video isn't a review per se. It's really just kind of showing off all the things, or at least most of the things, that the device can do. So I call that a visual tour. So we'll go over all the system UI, we'll go over all the applications, we'll go over and with a focus on the note-taking and reading apps, and other miscellaneous things that you encounter as you're engaging with the device. So that's really the purpose of this video, just to understand what the device can do, how it goes about it, and to get a general sense of the performance overall as we go through the process. So that is the purpose of this video. So why don't we go ahead and jump on in and start the tour. So our virtual tour will begin looking at the general user interface or UI of the device. And you'll notice we'll start here on standby mode. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on the power button, and it's going to take me right in. And this is going to reveal one of two interfaces. This is known as the Office interface. And what's unique about this is you've got this sidebar where you can scroll on various icons here on the left. I'm using my stylus, but I could also use my finger to scroll. And what this basically represents is these are applications, much like you see here in the App Center, but they're mounted on this side bar. So for example, if I wanted to go into storage, you can click on that, you can go into your library, and so on. Any apps that are on this sidebar are not located here in the App Center. So if you put something on the bar, it doesn't appear here. Now this bar is highly customizable. So for example, I can move icons in whatever order I want. So I'm going to go ahead and hold down this App Center, for example, slide it up, and there you go. I've just changed the order. Storage was on top, now it's after the App Center. But it's more customizable than that. We're going to go quickly into settings, and I can do that either by clicking on this settings app or clicking on this gear icon on the top. Either way gets you to the same place. And there's a couple things to note here. We'll come back to settings later, but right now I just want to focus on the menu management and the home screen style. We'll start here with menu management. So if I click on that, we get this bar, and this indicates a couple things. First, it'll indicate what apps you want on the bar. So all these things that say on are currently listed on the bar. It's not limited to the system apps, and you can tell the system apps because they have this kind of teal background. But if we scroll through, you can see you can actually add other applications in there as well, or remove them all. And pretty much any app that you have on the device, is available to put on the bar. So you could go super minimalistic, for example. Let's go ahead and turn off virtually everything. Like so. We'll go ahead and get out of there. We'll go home. And so now there's only two things on the sidebar. So it's fully customizable. Let's go back in and add in the Google Play Store, like so. And you can see the Google Play is here. And in this case, actually, it remains in the app drawer as well. Now, there's another view in addition to this Office view, and that view, let's go ahead and go into settings, go into home screen style, is known as the tablet style. So if we click on this, now suddenly we don't have the sidebar, and all applications, both system and downloaded applications, are listed on the screen, and they carry forward on subsequent pages. And then you also have this widget center where you can add whatever widgets that you want to the device. So let's go ahead and click on Add Widgets here, and then you can see what's available. So you've got one for your system library, OneNote, and we've got your search bar, you've got you can put Google Drive, you've got widgets there. They have an Office app, which we'll take a look at briefly, called WPS Office. You've got a widget for that. YouTube, Music, and OneDrive. So YouTube is a great example here. This was not native to the device. I downloaded YouTube, but it came with associated widgets, and those were available here. So if you download additional apps, some will have widgets, which you can see in this screen here. If we just add in a bunch of things, let's go ahead and put in a few. Did I click on that? There we go. And let's put I think we have library already. Put in a search bar. We'll put in OneNote. Okay. And it just keeps scrolling down. And if you have additional widgets that go beyond the screen, then you can just scroll between the widgets. So all widgets are on this leftmost screen. And then this is a non-customizable widget. So this is inherent in the screen. And then everything else are applications. And you do have a tray at the bottom as well. And of course you can move apps around like so to add them to the tray so it appears on every page. So those are the basic UIs. You'll notice between the Office and the app UIs, you always have this top bar here, and we'll go ahead and walk through what those functions are now. Okay, so the top bar starts with this home button, and if you click on this, it will take you, there we go, to your home screen, and by default your home screen is always your second screen over here in the app mode. If you were in the Office mode, the home screen will actually take you to whatever your last item was that was selected on the bar. There is no ability that I can tell so far where you could change other pages to be the home screen. It's always the second one next to your widget screen. The next icon over is the E-Ink Center. If we click on that, this is where you have your different refresh modes. So they've done quite a bit to create presets here. So if you go to default, you'll notice that a lot of the options become kind of gray, a light gray, which means they can't be toggled in this mode. The options that remain in black can continue to be toggled. So this is their default, which is normal and fast, and that's what we've been using so far. And that's a very performance mode. Then they have magazine, which focuses on a higher color resolution and quality, but it's a little less, it refreshes at a more choppier rate, and we'll take a look at that. Then you have comics. This goes into a regal mode. And then we have video, which goes into extremes. That's supposed to allow for quicker refreshes. Basically, if you go along this continuum, generally speaking, HD and regal behave very similarly to each other, and normal, fast, and extreme are very similar to each other as well. However, you do see a little more ghosting as you get toward the extreme, and a little less in HD 256. So there's a little bit of a continuum going on there, and it also depends on whether you have the ability to do this auto clean feature, which is kind of how Bigme helps to manage ghosting. But just looking at the refresh modes, the higher you are, the more the modes themselves adjust for ghosting, but you lose performance. You get more ghosting in extreme, but you have much more snappy performance as a result. And then finally, customization is where you can actually, you do everything is black, there's nothing grayed out, and then you can set those accordingly. So let's go ahead and take a quick example of how the performance and visualization differ. And I'm going to go back into the Office style. And remember that we earlier on we moved some of these icons around, and I think it's a good example of how these refresh modes behave. So let's go ahead and go back into the E-Ink Center, and we're going to we'll go ahead and go with extreme here. And now I'm going to move Office below and just take a look at how responsive it is. See, very, very snappy. Now, if I click on, and actually take a quick look at the icons. For example, look at Kindle, look at Kobo. Let me refresh the screen. Okay. Now we're going to go into HD mode. Okay, and you notice that it flashed there, so that's getting rid of ghosting, so that's inherent in the mode. You can see more detail, and the colors here seem to blend together much better on the Kindle app. The Kobo looks just a touch bolder, but now let's look at the performance. So now I'm going to go ahead and take this office icon, hold it down, and move it, and see how choppy that is. It's not particularly responsive at all. So that's the trade-off. You get better image quality if you go to the extreme left, and you get better refresh quality if you go to the extreme right. And there, of course, are other toggles that you can play with, and it depends. Their performance varies from app to app. We'll go ahead and go back to normal mode because it's generally fine. It's a nice mode for navigating. The colors don't pop quite as much. Again, I'll switch to just notice on the top row there. So they get a little bit bolder in this mode, but I really like the performance level, so we'll stay there for now. Moving on along the top, we have this kind of menu bar, and this is for any active application. So if you wanted to go ahead and clear those out, you'd click on this little dustbin here. You can also do individual ones as well. So if you're bogging down for some reason, or you want to just refresh your system, that's an easy way. It's a task manager bar, essentially. This button has no functionality in the app mode, but in the office mode, you can see it takes you to an app tray. So if we go back to home, so we move back to the office, and here it moves into the app mode. This is different, of course, than the UI for the app UI in general, because you notice there's no widgets. In this case, there's only the one page, and we don't have access in the office mode to the apps that appear on the sidebar. So this is a different icon than what we saw earlier with the app UI. And let's go ahead and go into that, or I should say they call it the tablet style. So if you click on this icon now, it doesn't do anything. It's only contextual to the office mode. We've already talked about this gear. It takes you right into settings. If we click on this little drop down arrow here, then we get these control toggles. So we'll come back to that. Then you have an undo button. You've got your day and time, and then you've got your battery percentage indicated there. Okay, so as previously mentioned, I can pull down the shortcuts tray by clicking on this icon, but I can also just swipe down and it achieves the same result. You've got your date and time on top, and here's your toggles for Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. If the color inside the circle is blue, it's activated, and if it's white, it isn't. So in this case, we know both Wi-Fi and Bluetooth are on off. I'll go ahead and click on that, and now you can see the Wi-Fi is on, or in this case, it's in the process of connecting. Go ahead and turn that off. You have a button here for the E-Ink Center. This is the same button as you see in this icon up here. So these perform the exact same feature, as you can tell from there. Next up, you have global handwriting. Global handwriting is a pretty unique feature. Other companies are starting to do elements of global handwriting. Let's go ahead and click on that and walk through that. So this menu comes up, and we'll click on. And then you have this menu. Now there's 3 different modes, and there's an explanation for what each mode does. The handwriting mode is where you can basically interact with applications that otherwise would have a delay in registering your writing to the app. Because apps, for example, like OneNote, are not inherently designed to work with e-ink screens, and so there's a native lag. The handwriting mode allows you to basically kind of write, and then it translates it into the app, so it's a little more of a responsive experience. The reading mode is a mode which I think is the most unique function of global handwriting, where you can actually create a notebook and then you can do annotations on pages and save them into the notebook. And you can come back to the notebook and keep adding to it. So it's kind of a neat way, for example, of doing research. You can have all of your notes in one notebook, and your annotations, you can jump from, say, Kindle to a website to whatever. And as you make annotations and then save those pages, they all get collected, kind of like a scrapbook, if you will. And that's what they call read mode. Picture mode is something we're actually seeing now fairly common on a lot of devices, where whatever is on your screen, you can make annotations and it saves it as a one-page image. So that's what those three modes do. And then you can see you've got some differences in terms of pen styles that you can use. You can do different eraser styles, and then there's all sorts of different colors and line thickness that you can use as well. We'll go a little bit deeper into global handwriting in the next video, but this is just the basic functionality. And again, I would say read mode is the one mode that is unique to Bigme. Book's device, for example, has its equivalent of handwriting mode, which is actually automatic, and then picture mode, which they call free mark, I believe, if my memory serves me. But that's global handwriting. Okay, next up there is the ability to go split screen. And here's kind of a guide to it. Let's click out of that. So we can, we'll start it this way. Okay, we have to be in the right app to do split screen. So let's go ahead and go into this Docs app, for example. This is Google Docs. We'll go ahead and go into split screen, like so. All right, and so now we have the Google Docs now appears on top. We have, by default, the ability to do additional notes. We can also do voice recording or another application. And these are the types of applications that are available. It's interesting, these apps are actually different than some of the apps that we've seen on the home screen, because I don't recall seeing some of these apps before. But then a lot of the apps that we do have on our screen are here as well, like, for example, the Color Dictionary, OneNote, Google Drive, and so on. And as you noted, probably earlier, we can go ahead and swap positions, like so. And we can also change how big each of the two screens are. All right, in order to get out, we'll go back in the split screen, and we will exit. So before we move on, though, you'll notice that split screen worked in portrait mode, but there's also the screen rotation button down below. Now, it doesn't seem to work here in this UI, but if I go ahead and go into an app, we'll click on Google Play, I can then turn the screen orientation around, like so, and now I've got this in landscape mode. And if we go back then into split screen, it will do this in horizontal mode as well. Okay, so moving on to process management, we've actually already seen that. That's the same as this icon here. So if you click on this, in this case, we do have some apps that are running. And again, I can go ahead and clear out individual ones like so, or the entire one using the dustbin. Next up is screenshots. So if I click on screenshots, I'm able basically to take this image of the entire screen, and then you have the ability, you can crop it, you can save it in a file, or you can share it. Here you can also do annotations as well, very similar to global handwriting, but this is a quicker way of getting into that than the global handwriting function. Okay, here's the ability for Miracast. Miracast is basically a way where you can cast the device to appear on another screen. The catch with Miracast, though, is you do need a device that will receive it. So Google Chromecast, for example, would be able to receive this. It's not a web-based screen sharing function, so it is a bit limited, and you do need that device to receive the signal. But once you do, then you would just see exactly what you see here, but projected on whatever screen that you decided to use. The speed up button theoretically can clear out RAM, I presume, in order to kind of speed up your device if it gets bogged down. You can start recording. So the recording is basically just a video recording of whatever you end up doing on the device. So it's pretty straightforward. You can see it started already. Let's go back to the home screen. So wherever I'm going, it's recording this. I can go into Google Play, and then if I click on this, so it'll create an MP4 folder, and that's the file structure of where it's going to save it. You have the ability to disable touch, so if you find that you're getting accidental clicks or what have you, then this is a way of preventing that. Go ahead and go back on. If we go to Power Management, this is a shortcut into the settings screen, specifically the power management functions, which we'll go over when we go into settings. That's settings as well, so both of these icons are taking you into settings, and we've already talked about screen rotation. Below this you have your light toggles, and so you've got some automated configuration. So this is no front lighting. This is a front lighting that turns on the cold lighting. So this top bar is for warm lighting, the bottom bar is for cold. You've got this night feature, which is a blend of the two. You've got what's called bedding. So those are all presets. And then any other thing that you manually do will be your other setting until you manually change it again. So for example, if I go to this preset and I go to lights out and I go back to other, it remembers the last thing I manually set those two toggles to. Just to show you the front lighting in action, of course, again, this is no front lighting. This is full warm front lighting. This is full cold front lighting. And then this is what it's like to have both. And then finally down below you have your volume trigger. Remember, there are speakers. This is not the speaker here on top, but the speakers are right here. And you can basically toggle that down below in terms of total volume. And then there are, with Android, you have the different sliders for the different types of audio sounds. So that is basically all the functions that are available on the top bar. Okay, let's now move into settings. And we've seen a little bit of settings before. And again, there's multiple ways of getting into settings. The easiest might be this gear on top. This is where you can basically select your account. This is your Bigme account. So as you make notes on the device or you have documents on the device, that gets backed up to the Bigme servers if you elect to have an account. There's your Wi-Fi functions, and these are pretty straightforward. I have Wi-Fi off, but you would just see whatever networks are available and can connect. Pretty straightforward. Bluetooth is also off, but if you turned it on, it would show what Bluetooth devices you can connect. This can handle Bluetooth keyboards, Bluetooth mouse, and Bluetooth audio devices. Those would be the more common things that you might want to connect to the tablet, and that would be available here. Under Stylus, we have the ability to do calibration. If your stylus was disconnected for some reason, then you can click on this stylus connection, but as you can see, it's working just fine. Stylus buttons refers to a time when Bigme used to have styluses or styli with buttons on them. These were kind of Bluetooth buttons, but they were specific to this device. That's no longer the case. There are no buttons on the stylus, so this doesn't actually have any functionality here. And that's also true with this page up, page down key definition. This section here is not relevant for this device because this stylus doesn't have buttons. Our next section we move down is to kind of our power management. And like all devices, or most devices I should say, you have the ability to go into a sleep mode. A sleep mode is when you put the device into kind of a standby situation, and that's in fact what you have if you click on the power button. So here we are in standby, and by clicking on the power button again, it just takes a few seconds and you're right back into the device. So it's a way of saving battery, but it still drains battery, but it keeps the device in a pretty much a readiness type of a mode, as opposed to shutdown, which will completely shut down the device, which pretty much preserves the battery. It's a very, very minimal, slow drain of power, but then to come out of shutdown, you have to power up and go into the boot sequence. I haven't timed it on this device, but that can vary from device to device, from 30 seconds to even a minute to boot up. So those are the advantages. They're both battery saving features. The shutdown saves more battery than the sleep time, but the disadvantage is you have a longer boot up time. Now with each of these toggles, you have different time segments of inactivity that would trigger, in this case, sleep mode. And then for shutdown mode, you have a different set of times that are available. If we go into power management, there's some additional modes. So for example, you can disable wake up by the cover. So if I had the cover on and I close it, it would go into standby mode. And if I opened it, it would come out of standby mode unless I click this on, in which case I would have to hit the power button in order to get out of standby mode. Audio shuts off in sleep mode or standby mode if you turn this on. And then there's this delay feature for Wi-Fi and Bluetooth when you're going into sleep mode. And I believe the idea here is if you accidentally go into sleep mode and you come out, it's annoying because your Wi-Fi and Bluetooth have to reconnect. So you can set this so that there'll be a delay. So if you did it accidentally, these things will not actually turn off. And there are different time segments you can choose there. Finally, and this is somewhat unique to Bigme, there is an additional power saving mode where you can put it into a general performance mode or general power save mode. And you can see the text descriptions there. Obviously, the performance mode will degrade the battery quicker than the power save mode, but presumably you can get better responsiveness. For the purposes of my battery testing, which I will be doing and displaying in the next video, everything will be set to power save mode on as a default. I just find that it's pretty snappy, and I think you've seen that so far in this demonstration. On this mode, I have not seen the advantage of performance mode when I've worked with the device in the past, so I just prefer the battery saving. And also I disable and turn off these power save features during my battery testing as well. So this is the exact way that I will have the device set up as I start to measure its battery. As we continue down, we've already talked about the home screen style, and you'll notice that because we've selected the tablet style, we don't have that other option. So if we go back to office style and go back into settings, you'll notice that the menu management or menu manage is then added to the settings screen because it's only relevant in the this office style, right? It's only because it's of this sidebar, which doesn't exist in the home screen style they call tablet, or I call app, like so. We have different languages this device supports, and I'll go ahead and just go through those so you can see what's available. I'll go through these fairly quickly, but you can pause them in the video if you're looking for a particular language. So in all these cases, the UI of the device would be reflective of the language that you select. Here's the system font size, which we currently have at large. Let's go ahead and click on normal or small. You can obviously set the date and time. An input method allows you to change keyboards, and there's settings for that as well. We've already gone over screen rotation. That was the exact thing we saw when we pulled down the system bar and clicked on that. We do have gesture settings here, and this is where you can either turn on or off the various gestures. In this case, this is swiping from the bottom of the screen. This is basically sliding from the side of the screen, and this is going back by swiping in. You can change, the ones that have arrows have different menus of things that you can have those gestures do differently. So there's the list there. And all three of these have the same list. And then there's the list for the toggles on the sides. And those are the same for both as well. This is the exact same thing we saw when we went in the setup sequence. You do have the ability to do a device password. There is a fingerprint reader on the device, so that's there. You can connect with the Google server. I am on off of Wi-Fi, so we're getting this message, but that's how you would connect to Google services. Account management allows you to connect to things like OneNote, Baidu, and Google Drive, and so you can back up files that way as well, in addition to what we saw earlier with the Bigme account. Here you can do system updates. Let's go ahead and check for one. Latest version, cool. If we have any issues with the device, we can click on this log report and we can type in, there's your keyboard, what our issue is, and then send that directly to Bigme. Again, remember you can do a Bluetooth keyboard as well, which might make the input of that a little bit easier. You also have some quick links here to some of their support sites. And then finally, you've got details about the device. There's our model, the B1051, and so on. So let's move on then to look at a quick survey of the applications that are available on the device. And I'm not going to go into great detail on most of these applications. I just want to kind of give a sense of what they are and what they can do. But this won't be a comprehensive look into all the features of the apps. The two exceptions, and we'll actually save these for a little bit later in the video, will be the note-taking and reading apps, which are much more core to this device, and therefore will delve more deeply into those as appropriate. But we'll just take it from the top. This is Google Docs. This actually came installed natively. It's a little bit coincidental that the coloring is similar to their system coloring, but that's just a coincidence. This is actually a Google application, and it's pretty much, if you're familiar with Google Docs on Android, that's what this experience is. So I won't go any deeper there. You can scan documents. There's a camera on the back. We'll just go ahead and go through this wizard that basically talks about the different functionality. So kind of a neat little application that you can use, again, leveraging their camera. If you wanted to, for example, sign a document electronically and you had that document in paper format, then you can go ahead and take an image of it, and then you can annotate on that image and then save that. So that's one example of how you might use that particular application. We do have a navigation ball. Books users will be familiar with this, very similar. They call it here the floating ball. Let's go ahead and turn that on, and there it is. If I long press on this, I can kind of move it around. We'll move it down here where it's a little more obvious. And then it's going to moor itself to the side of the screen, like so. If we click on the ball, you can see the different shortcuts that are available in this kind of fan mode. And we can also change the size of the ball. Let's go ahead and make it really large, like so. If we click on that, then the icons are larger as well. And we can also make it very small, 0 apparently. And then of course the icons are tinier as well. Let's go ahead and make that large just for visibility purposes. Okay. Now, of these 9 keys, as they call them, you can see what the functions are here, and they can all be customized. So, for example, if I go ahead and click on this homepage key, let's get rid of this so we can see better. Here's all the options that that key can be, including none. So you can actually change the number of shortcuts that appear by clicking on none for some of these. Let's go ahead and on page 2, and that is the full list. Let's go ahead and just for fun, go in and select none on half of these. just to see what that looks like. There we go. All right, and then let's then take a look, and you can see it becomes a much simpler shortcut. And so you can basically customize this quite a bit. We'll go ahead and turn that off. Next we have the Kindle application, and this actually was pre-installed. And this is the standard Kindle app for the device, so there's nothing particularly unique. Task List is one of their system apps, and you can actually just create tasks. Go ahead and click on that. You can see you can hand write the input. Like so. And then you can select whether it's done or undone. Let's keep it as undone and save that. And there's our task. Mark it as completed. And then it moves over to this done tab. So pretty straightforward little task list application. Their user manual is here. And so we've actually seen some of that as we've gone through different applications. But if you click off those and you want to come back to them, they're all here. They have a translation, B for Bigme translation. Let's go ahead and see what languages are supported. There it is. And you can see it supports text and doc files as well. And then those are all the translation subjects. So presumably this would help the accuracy of the translation by knowing what type of document that is being referred to. I've never done any testing on this, so I don't know the quality of this particular app, but there it is. You have an app management, and this is pretty standard for Android devices. So you can go to application information, like so. Input method, right? We saw that in settings. What apps can run in the background. What apps are consuming battery power. And then you have your do not disturb. I should also point out that some applications themselves, you can go directly into their management mode. So I'll take YouTube, which I downloaded from the Google Play Store. So if I long press on that, if I click on edit, that's a general edit where I can delete or move around applications. But I can also click on this manage icon, and then I go specifically into this application. And again, Android users will recognize this layout. This is pretty standard for that operating system. Okay, we have an icon here for settings. We've already gone into settings. There is a music player on the device. It's got a couple default songs. This is only going to play music that's loaded onto the device. So it's pretty straightforward. You have a screensaver option. So when I click on to go into standby mode, this is the screensaver. So I'm going to go ahead and go back into the app, and you do have the ability to change it. You've got some presets here. So here's, like for example, a time and calendar. Now, just note that when you use something like this, you're going to get a little more battery drain in standby mode because it's consistently refreshing that time, as well as the battery rate. But you do have this option. You also have the ability to just do kind of a transparent. So the transparent would essentially be whatever you were seeing on the screen. You would see the same thing, but you would know you're in sleep mode because of this top bar. And then finally, you have the ability to do your own customized images, and you can also put in customized text. So I could put my logo, for example, and say good night. I could do that here in this particular application. They do have a calendar app, and it's a pretty straightforward application. The notes and reading are reflective of the note-taking and reading app. So for example, if I read on Kindle, there wouldn't be no information here. Let's look at these. So you can see here, I did some notes on this day, and that's indicated by this little dot. And if I go to this date, that was the note that I worked with. You can also create a sticky note for that day. So put that in here, like so. And then you can see there's a little dot there, which indicates there's a sticky note that was for that particular date. You do have the ability to back up the calendar, but there is no integration, for example, with Outlook or with Google Calendar. This is all just internal to the calendar. They have a photo application. Here's a photo that came, all these photos came in the device. So a great, this really shows off Kaleido 3. This again, it's images like this that really make me appreciate what Kaleido 3 can do. So a great demonstration image here by Bigme. But any images you have, you can see in this picture app. Oops, let's get out of this. Here we go. You have OneNote in here. Pretty straightforward. You've got Google Play. This came with the device by default, as did OneNote. I didn't download either of those. In fact, the only app thus far that I've downloaded is none. Actually, I haven't downloaded any. I downloaded YouTube. That might be it. And Kobo. I downloaded Kobo as well. So all these other applications are native when you receive the device. WPS Office is the device's Office suite. I should point out as well, you can, of course, download other Google applications like Sheets. You can download Microsoft applications like Word and Excel through the Google Play Store. But if you wanted to use their inherent Office application, here it is. And you just click on a plus, and this is where you can do either a new Word document presentation or spreadsheet. So we won't go any deeper into that. They have a dictionary. They call it Color Dictionary, but essentially it's just a dictionary. And you can download either a dictionary or a thesaurus. They have voice translation. Okay, I logged into my Bigme account, so let's go ahead and show this in action. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use this as the translation, but let me show you what options are available. Like so. But let's go ahead and do one. Hey there, I hope things are going well. I'm having fun reviewing this device. And there you go. Let's go ahead and stop translating. You can see that it did a really good job of recording my audio, and then it did a very quick translation as well. So very nice, and we could export this if we wanted to. And then it will export onto the device, and then you can manage it accordingly. And then if I want it, so I'll get, every translation will come up with its own box. If I click on management, then I have the ability to delete those boxes. Okay, there's another Office application here, but this is really for viewing files. And you can see you can view docs, spreadsheets, or PowerPoints. The next application is their GPT file. So let's go ahead and click on that. Get out of, here we go. And so it's a chatbot, but it also has the ability to do compositions for you. And then you can also do images. So let's go ahead and they've got a couple preset, I think, here to kind of demonstrate what this can do. We'll go ahead and create this image. The English is a little bit off. Okay, let's try that again. All right, we're getting something here. And there it is. Kind of interesting. So then you can then take that, and again, it becomes, let's go back here. It becomes an image that you can then use in elsewhere in the chat bot. You can type out, let's go ahead and just send this preset in, and then you can copy this and put it into another document. Okay, so they call that Bigme GPT 4.0. Obviously, it's a proprietary chat model. Okay, YouTube is pretty straightforward, and again, I downloaded that. That was not native to the device. They do have a camera application, pretty straightforward. There's pretty simple functionality that you would expect. You do have a web browser. So it's, again, a pretty simple web browser. And then if we go onto the next page, they do have a number of apps pre-installed for cloud services, and all of these were there by default. I didn't download any of these, but you could have downloaded. If OneDrive wasn't there, you could have downloaded it using Google Play. So our attention then turns to these applications down here. This first one is a meeting application, and this is basically where it can transcribe. This can transcribe a meeting. So let's go ahead. Hello there, I'm doing a demonstration of at least a part of the meeting app. And then it'll record it. You have some editing functions as well. Whoops, let's go ahead and get that stopped. And then you also have the ability to do notes while it's recording. And this will be very familiar. This is very similar, if not exact, to the features that are available in the note-taking app, which we'll go over shortly. So again, I'm not going over all the details of this application, but this is basically meant to transcribe meetings. This is the note-taking app, and we'll be going into further detail on this later. This goes into the library, so any of your documents, your EPUBs, your PDFs, comic book files, and so on, doc files, those would all be located here. And by clicking on these, you go into the reading app itself, which we'll go into a little more detail shortly. And then finally, you have your storage application. You can either go into any of these kind of macros, which, for example, this collects all your documents on the device, regardless of what file it's in. Or you can click on this bar above, and then you can go into the file structure itself and navigate accordingly. Of course, there is an external storage option. I have not loaded an SD card, but you can certainly do that, and you can load up to 1 terabyte of storage. All right, so our tour then continues, and we're going to focus on the note-taking app. Go ahead and click on that. And this is basically the splash screen for that application. There's a number of ways that you can view files. You can do this way, which is the most recent file. You can go into a file folder structure, which is indicated here. You'll notice that you'd have file management features here. So I can go ahead and move, export, or delete files in this structure. If I've deleted files, they end up in the recycle bin, and they can either be recovered or they can be deleted. And then finally, there's a section over here. If I click on this icon, I get two possibilities. Any type of notes that are done in the note-taking app in split screen are recorded separately, and any type of notes that are done through global handwriting, which we'll explore in more detail in the next video, will be located here. The search functionality on all files is for the title of the file. One note about that, it is very specific. So let's look, for example, at this notes. So if I click on this and type notes or note, and we'll do a search, it's not going to find anything. So it's case sensitive is essentially what I'm saying. So if I go, it will find it because of the capital letter. So the search functionality is limited to titles and it's case sensitive. So just something to be aware of here. You do have the ability to create a new document either by clicking on this icon or clicking on this icon. Here we can kind of change how we sort it by name, creation, or update. You can also create folders here, like so. And there's an example of a folder right there. Let's go ahead and then go into a notebook, and we'll just call it Tour. Oops, I created a file. I'm sorry, a notebook, a folder that is. All right, let's create a note called Tour. And you'll notice that not only can I name it, but I can also go in and look through the template. So let's see what templates are available on this device. Let me get out of the keyboard. So we're in the office, and we'll just go ahead and quickly scroll through to see what template options are available. Notice there are quite a few templates to choose from. I'm going through these somewhat quickly, but you can pause the video if you want to take a quick look or a more detailed look at what's available, that is. Here we have what's called Learn. And finally, Default, where your more standard templates are. Lastly, you have this Local, and this is where you can import, and you'll notice that you can import PDF files as templates here. If we go back to recently, your most recent templates are available, and it will automatically select the last template style you selected, in this case, horizontal 3. And finally, if we go to other settings, we have some ability to customize, in this case, the size of the canvas. And we'll actually get to that when we go into the notebook itself, because there will be an option there as well. But the default is the black shaded area, and it can expand into a 2x2 grid. All right, well, since we have everything the way we want it, we'll just go ahead and click on New. And now here we are into the basic note-taking application. So walking through the UI here, let's just start with this top bar, and we'll go from left to right. Now this icon here, if we click on it, you can see it collapses the bar, and so you have a much cleaner canvas. You're only left with this back arrow, which will take you out of the notebook. Right? And we have the option to save or delete it. We'll save it, and it takes us out. Okay. If we re-expand that, then we've got the layers option. So there's up to 5 layers that are available. You can see it says it right there. Every layer can either show or not show. If I turn that layer off, it disappears. Let's go ahead and add some layers in here by clicking on this plus icon. Okay, so let's go ahead. We're on layer 5 currently, and you can see the number 5. So we'll put that right there, number 5. In fact, let's go ahead for demonstration purposes. And then we'll go in the 3rd layer. So the advantage of layers is they operate independently of each other. So for example, if I were to delete this layer, and we're on layer number 3, so I'm going to go ahead and do an area eraser, and you'll notice that only the number 3 will disappear. If we wanted to keep layer 4, but we didn't want to see it anymore, we can click on that eye, and you don't see number 4 anymore. Well, you can see a little bit of an after image there. Let's get rid of the ghosting. But it's gone, and to return it, I can just click on that eye, and there it is. You can also swap the location of the layer, so I can make layer 4 on top and so on. And of course, you can lock and delete them as well. Here's another location where you can change your template, as we saw as we created the file. This icon is the canvas icon, and as I mentioned, we're currently 1 by 1, meaning that the entire canvas fits onto the screen. But we can go as far as 2 by 2, so it zooms into the template, but the canvas size itself actually is much bigger. You notice that these numbers didn't grow in size. We can now scroll over accordingly, and you'll notice you get this window up above that shows where you are in that canvas. Okay, let's go back to normal mode. All right. You do have a lasso tool. So if we click on this, there we go. It's only selecting 5, remember, because I'm on layer 5. You have the ability to change that into text using their OCR feature. You can also turn this around, like so. Whee! Or you can delete it by clicking on the X. You can also copy, paste, and cut here accordingly. So those are all the functions related to the lasso tool. This is where you can zoom in on the screen. Right now, we're fitting it on the screen, but we can go ahead and just zoom in super close, like so, and then return to our normal mode. There's a pen tray. We'll get to that in just a second. This is your share options. And so you can share via QR code, a PIN number. You can export it as a PDF or PNG file. Other will vary depending on the apps that you have on the device. And so you can share them with what's available. And there's the list there. You have your undo and redo. And you have your page number. So I can click on this to advance pages. If I click on the page numbers, then you get this grid. And then you can quickly navigate to your page that way. Now let's go ahead and expand the pen tray. And you'll get an additional pen tray, and some of this is collapsible. So right now it's fully expanded, but I can click on this icon on the bottom, and it will basically cut into half. So more of just the pen shortcut tray, and then you unclick this, it's more of an advanced options tray. I can also click on this icon and collapse that. Oops, let's go ahead and do that as well. There we go. And I can click it on again. And you'll notice I can also move this around. And that it will attach itself to whichever side it's closest to. You can't move around the top bar. Now, if we go down and look at the detail, we'll go ahead and collapse this to simplify it for a second. You have 5 slots for different pen styles. So let's go ahead and click on that. I'll click on it once to select it, twice to pull up details. You can set these shortcuts to whatever you want. So you can make them all the same pen style with different colors. You can make them different pen styles, as is currently the case. And then you have the ability to select your type, you can select your color, and you can select your line thickness. Okay, I just wanted to show a quick survey of what the different pen styles look like. And we'll start with what's literally called pen. And then what you can see here is the different levels of thickness, as an example. There is no pressure or tilt sensitivity. In fact, none of the pen styles have pressure or tilt sensitivity. And then you can see what the different colors look like here. If we go ahead and go on to the next page, now we see the pencil, again with the 5 levels of thickness. And then you can see what those look like in different colors. If we go, here's your brush. Here's your ball pen. And finally, here's the mark pen, which really functions as a highlighter, and you can kind of see that there. Pretty nice highlighter. So I wrote hello there first, and then I wrote the yellow on top of it, and it looks pretty good. What's curious is you can see the colors are really kind of weird looking. You see virtually nothing there, and these have kind of odd images to them. And even if I refresh the screen, you still have that. But if I go down and to the E-Ink Center, and I go to an HD mode, you can see that it's a much different story, and they come out much bolder. So just something I want to point out. Let's go ahead and look at the other images in HD mode just to see if that kind of changes how they look. And the other ones are a little bolder, but pretty much the same. So the highlighter definitely, or they call the mark pen, definitely benefits from a higher refresh setting, at least in terms of the display quality. So just something to be aware of. Then down below you have your eraser features. So again, if I click on this twice, I can either do track erasing, arrange eraser, which is currently what it's checked on. That's where you do an area and it will erase. You can have a stroke eraser, or you can just clean the entire layer or all layers. Because the range eraser is currently checked, if I use the end cap eraser right here, it will then delete, in this case I'm on layer 4, it will delete what's on that layer and leave the other layer alone. As we keep going down, I have the ability to add pages. That's exactly the same as if I click on this triangle up here, but I can also delete pages. So let's go ahead and move forward, and then let's delete that page. And now it's a 2-page document. Here's another location where you can change the template. You have the ability to create shapes. So those are the shape types available. You can change what style of their border or lines are, the color, the line width, and whether you want a filling in it. Let's go ahead and do a circle with a dash. We'll make it blue. Let's make that width up there. See, notice it comes pre-filled. Okay, so the fill option, which is down below, will only work if the line style is solid. So let's go back to shapes. We'll just pick a triangle for something different. And we've got the solid line style there. Let's go ahead and I'll take fill off, and let's go ahead and put our triangle here. Now if I go down to the filling option, I have different colors. We'll do a yellow, I guess. And you'll notice that if I click on this triangle, boom, it's filled in. If I do the same thing with the circle, nothing, and that's because it's a dashed line. Down below, this filled in because I selected fill here when I created the shape. Okay, so next up is this item called AI or OCR. And Books has a similar feature called AI, and these are basically just gesture tools. So let's go ahead and click on this, and there's 4 things to note here. Let's go ahead and go into this kind of information bubble to walk through this. So the first thing is that we can turn our designs into perfect shapes. So let's go ahead and do that as an example. So if I go like this, I make a little wonky triangle, I hold it, see it becomes a nicer triangle as a result. So that is the first one, which is called, or the second one rather, called shape. If we then move to the next item, we have what's called stroke erase or strike through erase. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, and it becomes an eraser. It is a stroke eraser, so it has to touch the strokes in order to make the erase. So let's go ahead and do this. See, it will erase the whole thing because it was one line. So that's a shortcut way of being able to erase things. So you'd only erase the H because that was one stroke. Now you also have the ability to do what's called a gesture lasso. And there's a couple ways to execute that. You can draw a rectangle or you can draw a number of concentric circles, and it basically then automatically creates the lasso function. So let's go ahead and get out of this. Like so, and there we go. And so now I have the ability to delete, or again, I can convert that. Let's go ahead and use the OCR function this time and see it turn that into, again. Speaking of OCR, we have the ability to pick what language, although now it's only limited to English and Chinese for that purpose. And then finally, we do have the ability to just do text recognition on the entire page, and all that's left is the word hi. And so there it is. Let's do something a little more sophisticated. Actually, let's go ahead and clear out this sheet. So we'll clear all layers like so. And let's start over and go. Let's go ahead and do a full text recognition and see how well it does it. So, not too bad actually. So I was able to take my cursive or script writing and turn that into text. There's a second page for some reason. I'm not sure why. Oh, because there's 2 pages in the document. Okay. You have the ability to insert links. And so there's a number of things. You can insert a photo, text, attachment, another notebook, oddly enough, a document, a web page, or a timestamp. And you can see there's a number of options in terms of those timestamps. You have the ability to turn on and off gestures. And again, you would do this if you were accidentally hitting gestures that you didn't want to. So this can turn those off so that you don't have that annoyance. If we click on this More button, we have a few other items. You can encrypt the file, you can rename it, and then finally customization is where you can get rid of, so you notice now you only have icons on the sidebar is one customization option, and then you have the ability to actually customize what shows up on the sidebar, although you're only limited to these things with pluses or minuses. So the minuses are things you can remove, and the pluses are things you can add. So not a lot of customization. All these other items are there by default. You can't get rid of them like you can here. And if you wanted to reset to the original configuration, then you can do so accordingly. So those are all the features of the note-taking application. So now let's take a look at their Reader app. And much like books, there is no application that you can click on to launch the Reader. You actually launch it by launching a document. So we'll go ahead and go into the library here, and we're going to take a look at the Reader in terms of an EPUB as well as in terms of a PDF, which are two of the more common file types. Let's go ahead and start with the EPUB. This document, Insomnia by Stephen King, was actually preloaded. In fact, almost all these documents were preloaded except for this test sheet that I loaded. Let's go ahead and click on this. Okay, we're in the document. Now, you can notice that down below you have the percent of the document that you've gone through. You've also got the time and the battery there as well. If I go ahead and click on the center of it, then we get into our menus. You have the title here, and you have the ability to exit out of the document. You have the ability for gesture control. So this is turning off gestures, again, in case you hit them accidentally. So if I had this on, for example, I couldn't swap pages with my finger, but with it on, I can. You have a pen tray. It's a pretty straightforward pen tray. You can change the type of pen style. You do have color options and line width options as well. You've got your lasso tool here. Let's go ahead and do the lasso tool. See, and you have the ability here to resize the text essentially. Okay, and then there's finally an eraser feature, and you do have the ability to do a track, range, or just erase the entire screen. Okay, we can click out of that. You do have search functionality here, and this will search for text only. So if we search for the word find, those are all the examples. Well, there's 7 pages of examples of when find comes up. This is the refresh modes. So you can, this is on custom currently, but you can go to any of the defaults. And this is the exact e-ink center that we saw earlier in the tour. So I won't go too deep into here, but you can get there by clicking on this icon here. You can go into the settings of the Reader app. So here's, for example, where your books can export to. If you long press, do you want the menu or the dictionary to display? What type of dictionary? So right now we've got one option. You can have bookmarks on your device, right? So if I click on that, that will bookmark. And if I want to get rid of the bookmark, so I don't even want to see that icon, I can turn that off. You can download your content. You can go from left to right or right to left. Manga being an example where you might want to switch that orientation. There's others as well, of course. And you can either do your progress through a percentage or a page number, all of which through that settings icon. You can also select your bookmark here even though you don't have the icon on the page, again, by clicking in the center and clicking on that bookmark. If you do bookmark it, then it is available in the contents page, and you can look to bookmarks, and there it is. Any type of bookmark you have, or you can click on it, and it will take you to that page. You also have the ability for any type of annotations. Annotations would be like highlights. Let's go ahead and do that now. Let's just pick this whole sentence. Okay, so now it's highlighted. Now if I click on the center, I go to contents, that becomes in annotation, which I can then click on. Any type of handwriting will also be here, so let's go ahead and show that as an example. And there's your handwriting. The TOC, or table of contents, is only available if it's inherent in the document. So while bookmarks, annotations, and handwriting are all things that you can add to a document and they'll show up accordingly, or you can remove them accordingly. Let's actually take a look at that. So I can go ahead and click on this and then say I want to delete that, and it will delete that accordingly. You can also back up your annotations onto the Bigme cloud. You can also export them. This will make it full screen for the menu, as opposed to this kind of 2/3 screen. But anyway, going back to that, so these are all things that you can manually manipulate. This only exists if the document itself has that feature, and then you can expand or contract accordingly. That's all available on the contents. By default, when you click on the center, you actually end up on the progress bar, and this is where you can move through the document accordingly. You have different moving options, and you also have a day and night mode in terms of the reading style. You have some format options. So here you can change the font size, the boldness, the font itself, whether you have pitch to zoom controls. You can also impact spacing, as you can see there. And then there are a few other options as well. So there's a number of things you can do to improve the reading experience. You can also change the contrast. Actually, let's go back and take a look at that. So if I wanted this text to be bolder, I could just go all the way up like so. You can see it got darker. If I wanted it to be lighter, then you click on like that. And then you can also do a split view. So the split view has a number of options. It can be 2 pages of the same document, but they act independent of each other. You can also do this document with another document, or this document with a notepad, or this document and the translation feature. All of those are available. So those are the menu features, and this again was an EPUB file. Let's go ahead and get out of that and go into a PDF file, in this case the user manual, and much of the functionality is the same. You can see the same menu items here. Again, you have your table of contents page. You've got your navigation, your formatting. It's a little bit different in this case because it's a PDF file, so some of the features will appear differently. Contrast is the same. You have this ability to reflow, which can manipulate the document. If you don't like kind of how it looks, that might be able to make it look a little bit better. And then you have your same split view options that we had before. So slightly different as it relates to a PDF, particularly in this format section, than what we saw with the EPUB file. I did want to do a quick demonstration of performance, and this is going to basically have 2 aspects of it. One is I just wanted to show how the reading app performs in terms of turning pages, but I also wanted to show how that can vary based on the E-Ink Center. So currently, we are at normal mode. In fact, let's go ahead and start with extreme. And so as you can see, we've got some ghosting there. We'll go ahead and take care of that. I'm going to go ahead and advance pages by tapping. You can see it's pretty fast, but of course we do have some ghosting. I can tap through. And sometimes it slows down slightly, but generally it's pretty responsive. Okay. Let's then go ahead and then go back into the E-Ink Center, and we'll go to something like HD 256 at the other extreme. And again, we expect to see higher quality of the image, a little bit less ghosting, but it may take longer to advance the page. You can see that there's that delay, but it generally is handling ghosting a little bit better. Let's go ahead and do a refresh though. I'm getting some latent ghosting. Let's go ahead and keep going. There we go. There we go. So slower, but a nicer image and reduced ghosting. Let's go ahead and just tap, see how it keeps up with that. Still not bad. Okay, so that's just an example of how that works in terms of general responsiveness and responsiveness as it's registering my last taps in terms of the different refresh modes. Okay, so that's the visual tour. If there's anything that I missed or something you want me to look into deeper, just pop that in the comments and I'll go ahead and try to answer that. In the meantime, the series moves on. The episode 3 will be all about the battery tests, and then I'll start to focus in on a few key areas, like for example, global handwriting. We'll take a deeper look at that, and we might do some more comparisons between this device and the Note Air 4C as well. The final video in the series will be the full review. So we're halfway through, and I hope to see you in the future videos. Until then, I'll see you next time.